Once you take away the venue show costs and the band's touring expenses, something corporate's actual profit from that $70 ticket is about $10.
I think the thing that I'm most upset about at the moment when it comes to touring is the damn fees, man.
Peace, what's going down? You are back on the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. We live the music business, so we talk the music business. You can tell that we're reduced today. Erinn's got important things going on. But you know what? The ironic part is I'm actually on a tour right now, and I'm taking a brief moment from the tour to run home to the studio and record this podcast. Dame, you are not traveling. It doesn't look like.
I'm not. We don't have Erinn, but we do have sound.
There we go.
We got. Okay, now let me stop playing around.
That would be Dame if he ever became a DJ or like a stand-in at a club gig.
I have sounds to bleep out all the times that you will refer to people as the B words. So I have that for you.
Get that ready, because I want to apologize first and foremost for ever saying anything kind about Azalea Banks.
Okay. Before we jump into this, as always, these episodes are brought to you by Too Lost. If you want 3 months free music distribution, use the code MEC. Go to toolost.com. We also now have an app, and it's available on both Android and iPhones. So download the app. You can pretty much do everything you can do on the desktop version right in the palm of your hands. It's pretty clean. So download it, check it out. Let me know what you think. Give us feedback in the comments. But let's jump into this. As always, we like to start with some of our wins. I know, Payne, you have a win that you want to share today. Let us know what you got.
So this will speak to your obsession theory about people who survive the music business. I definitely can't attribute it to anything else at this point. I'm on a tour, as I said. It's been spanning over a couple weeks. And last Saturday, I had a day off, and for whatever reason, it was a great beat sales day. And I think I sold like eight beats, 7 were leases, 1 was an exclusive. And I want to extend that to what I talk about later. So just remember what I said. But I know I posted a screenshot just to share as producer motivation, because there's a lot of information floating out, misinformation floating out there that discourages people in my community. And why? You know, if people are out here winning, why look at the people who aren't even doing anything and model your lives after them? So a lot of producers are out there sharing wins. What's your win, Dame?
My win for the week is we are 2 weeks away. So this will come out on Monday. So next week, hopefully everything goes as planned. We will start releasing a sketch every single day. We're working with a collective of comedians, and I think I've planted this seed on prior episodes, but we are close to being able to drop a sketch every single day, and then going live on Sunday. So we're about to get super active, and we have the Lesbian Homie starting to drop next month, later next month. So I'm just excited to see where this is going to take us, what kind of momentum it's going to build, what kind of conversations it's going to start. And everybody's excited. Everybody's excited. I remember, with the label, it's kind of a deja vu experience in the sense that I'm trying to get a collective of creative to move within some structure. Essentially, it's the same thing to me. But just a lot more positive energy. I don't have to, you still have to work with them to get them to understand kind of why we're moving a certain way, but there's no resistance. It's just all positive energy. Everybody's putting their best foot forward, and I'm excited because I've never been in that situation. So yeah, I'm just at a point right now, where I'm just kind of excited about things on the comedy side. So yeah, that's my win for the day.
Well, dope. Let's talk about a loss, and it's kind of crazy that this is even happening. This is a video posted to No Labels Necessary.
Before we put it up on the screen, just want to set it up a little better, because it's tough to tour as you're experiencing it right now. I'm not sure how the finances break down on the tour that you're currently
I'll tell you exactly how they break down, and because this is interesting, but I'll tell you after.
So yeah, if you can just take it off the screen for a second. So we have this. So yeah, it's tough to tour. People always, and I think a lot of artists are trying to tour prematurely. They don't understand. They obviously understand the revenue side more than the cost side. Because obviously ticket sales times however many tickets sold, that's revenue generated. But, you often don't factor in all of the costs. That's why it's so important to have somebody that can budget, that budget the tour, that it has some experience. Because there's a lot of costs that go into touring. And like I said, a lot of artists are trying to get on the road prematurely. And when they do, they realize, that they're struggling from city to city. I think Payne, both you and I have been on like those early day tours where, you're in we started off in a car and then like in a van, but it was real tight. And the guys were mad at me at times, but I'm like, look, we just don't have the bread to get a better hotel or to get another room. Like if you guys want to come home and actually put some money in your pocket, then, we have to travel this way. But this video that we're about to see with a band, I probably should know the band's name, but even though that's not the point of why we're bringing it up. Do you know the band's name?
Yeah, something corporate.
So they're breaking down and this is an established band. This is a band that's doing shows at the Palladium, which is a block away. I literally live I'm not going to tell people that, but, so they're selling a lot of tickets. So they're breaking down exactly how much they're taking away from the show. So let's look at it, Payne.
Friday night in LA, the emo rock band Something Corporate is playing a reunion show at the Hollywood Palladium.
Hi, how are you?
Fans have been paying about $70 for tickets to the tour.
When I woke up in New York City from my sleep behind the wheel.
But where exactly do those $70 go? Something Corporate frontman Andrew McMahon agreed to share those usually secret details for a show.
Here's an example of like a deal memo.
His team just blacked out exactly which show it was.
What do we have here?
To start, the band set a ticket price of $56.
There's a gross potential of a couple $100,000 being made.
But out of that $200,000 in ticket sales, half is deducted for venue-related show costs.
$37,000 in stagehands.
Leaving the band with a $100,000 payday. But most of that goes to the band's own expenses.
Commissions and fees and payroll.
Their management takes a quarter. Travel and crew costs take another quarter. Meanwhile, that $56 ticket has had fees added, though artists don't get that money. So once you take away the venue show costs and the band's touring expenses, Something Corporate's actual profit from that $70 ticket is about $10.
And then we split that 5 ways. Yeah.
McMahon isn't complaining. That's still $7,000 each for a night's work.
We love you, Los Angeles. Thank you for a beautiful night.
But the point here is each dollar fans pay
to enjoy the show
is fought over by artists, venues, ticket companies, and scalpers.
So I think the thing that I'm most upset about at the moment when it comes to touring is the damn fees, man. Like the ticketing fees, because those are just, random amounts that are added and they go back to the venue or whoever's manning the ticketing platform. The fees have gotten out of control.
Yeah, that's pure corporate greed, because you can listen to the breakdown and say, okay, stagehands are probably unionized. They're at risk. They get health insurance. They get all these benefits because that's a full-time job. I get that they make the money. Splitting 50-50 with a venue, especially when you're talking about $200,000, that seems like a lot. But realistically, when you play a show and the venue's not charging you any upfront costs, a 50-50 split is very reasonable because you're using their space, their staff, their resources, their electricity, etc. That's what a lot of DJs do. I know they play at a club and it's a 50-50 split, or they get a percentage of the bar, or they negotiate something else. So that doesn't shock me. But just at the end where they say that $14 in fees and it's wholly unspecified, you just know it's like those bullshit ass processing fees that are tacked onto an online sale. It's not a tax. It's not factored into the overhead of the actual product. You're just like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the toughest pill to swallow. But even in those, so when you go on a tour, the tour manager is responsible for settling the show. So after the show, you typically meet with the promoter and you kind of just go through the expenses or the revenue and expenses. Like, okay, this is how many tickets were sold. These are all the items that, you know, the expense items that we're deducting. And it's very important to have an experienced tour manager kind of have this conversation, because obviously the venue or the promoter, whoever's responsible for booking the talent, you know, they're incentivized to inflate those costs. Like even the cost that you said, you know, could be reasonable costs. Like they're incentivized to inflate those costs because, you know, they're receiving that money out of the gross sales for the night. So it's so important to have. It's so important to have a solid tour manager for a lot of reasons, but you know, to settle the show and go through these calculations and push back on certain things, so you kind of have to have. A lot of tour managers are considered assholes because you kind of have to be a little bit aggressive and push back on certain things, because the venues and promoters, they will inflate a lot of those costs. It's just what happens, you know, especially when the venue starts taking like percentages of merch. Everybody has their hands in the pot. Everybody has their hands in the pot. Your current experience, Payne, you have anything to share, or can you relate to any of the video from even your current experience that you're on right now?
Well, I've never gotten, what was it, $100,000 in gross profits from a show before. So no, I can't relate to that. But I definitely can relate to what you just said, where the tour manager needs to be kind of a harsh personality. Because I've been in many spaces where I'm managing myself, you know, and I'm collecting money at the end of the night. Someone's trying to finesse, you know, you have an agreement, you maybe get a deposit, whatever. And then when it comes time to pay the rest, there's an excuse, or people start talking. They start doing this. They start rubbing their hands, and you're exhausted. So I've been in those situations where initially I would just be like, man, I don't want to fight with this person. And then eventually I was like, no, forget all that. I did my work. I'm going to look you dead in the eye and tell you we had a deal and you need to honor it. I've done that multiple times and I hated doing it, but I got the money. I had to have this conversation with this promoter in the South, and she definitely went off and sold some drugs to come up with the money. And that was a horrible feeling, but I'm like, we had an agreement. I don't know why you didn't have the money when you signed the booking agreement. So I don't like those situations. I think more than anything, this could be advice for promoters. You know, like if you promise a group $1,000 and you only make $500, you need to have $1,000 in your pocket. I've promoted events before and I didn't lose my shirt, but I thought I was going to. And so all of those involved, we all went to our bank accounts and pulled out a few hundred each and kept it as cash in our pockets to anticipate if the show was a flop. We were hoping it wasn't, but we were nervous. We were just going to have to eat that cost because we weren't going to default on all of our obligations to the venue, to the acts, to whatever other overhead was there. So yeah, I mean, from all sides, pretty much, there are pretty terrifying financial obligations, and you could take a major loss, and you just have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, I think people think, you know, and I think it gets a little bit, or maybe a lot worse as you get bigger. It's bigger money, and I think maybe people aren't as diligent of looking at because it's such a larger amount of money. You know, I think there's more people trying to get in there. Another expense that I think people will probably, you know, perk their ears up at is the management taking 25% of the $100,000. So, you know, that'd be 25,000. And at the end, they said each member made 7,000. I don't know how many members are in the group, but let's just say there's 5. Let's just say there's 5. Obviously, that would be 35. Well, let's just say there's 4, right? That would be 28,000 to the management's 25,000. And people might be like, oh, wait, how is management making damn near the same amount as the artist? They're not playing the show. So management has expenses too, right? So it's not just like 28,000, and they're probably big enough to be at a firm. It might be a bigger management company that has a lot of expenses. They have employees that work there and assistants, things like that. So again, you really have to understand how this business breaks down to, maybe the 25% needs to be quiet. I don't know. Just know that there are other variables at play that could justify or make sense. 25% is at the higher, and I would think at a band that's as established as something corporate would have management at like 20% or 15% since they're more established. Mm-hmm. But again, we don't know the dynamics of their relationship. 25% is not wild. Management typically sits between 15 and 25, so they're at the higher end of that range. But I think ultimately what I would take away from this if I was an up and coming artist is like, look, throw your own shows. Like find venues, rent them out, learn that process. Because you learn that process, you'll make more money. And you'll start to learn all of the different aspects of putting together a show. So you have a better understanding of when you're in a position like something corporate, of like all the different parts all the different folks that played a part in making that show happen. And you'll understand, those expenses, and you'll have a better understanding of what they should be. It's obviously a lot more difficult to put on your own show, but it will pay off tenfold. And you can just control everything. You can control the ticketing platform that you use so that there's not crazy fees added to every ticket, and you can make a better experience you can ultimately have control over the entire experience for your fans. I think that's, the biggest piece of it, control the entire experience so that it tells the story that you're trying to tell. Anything else, Payne?
Well, I'll talk to you about the tour that I'm currently on, because it's, I would say, not as exceptional as you would think, but it's not typical of the average musician's touring experience. So I'm on tour. It's a dance workshop tour that I'm touring with. And that was through the university here, and I believe it's grant funded. So the tour is Latasha Barnes and Leandre Douglas, and who are two dancers, dance instructors. I could go on and on, but I got added on as well as a percussionist, and then there's a 5 or 7 piece band, I forget, at the end. That's the culminating event, but we're going around the region at different art spaces and university spaces. And, for me, it's great because I'm DJing. This is just what I do anyway. But I think these types of touring situations where you become an artist in residence, for example, at this institution here or that institution there, or you work with arts organizations, nonprofits, whatever, throughout the country or throughout the world, because there are networks of these. These are the kinds of opportunities, performance opportunities, touring opportunities that a lot of artists don't even know exist. But when you walk into these situations, for example, the way this is breaking down, it's grant funded, so it's not for profit on an event by event basis. It could be, but it's not. And so everyone's just getting what they're getting. You sign a contract that I know how many thousands of dollars I'm getting for this tour before I even hit the road. The workshops are free. It's non-traditional, but it's interactive. So a lot of artists really focus on the traditional performance routes. You go to a club, play the club, leave. Even there are a lot of layers because, for example, Ted Park does meet and greets, and, he's around the 100K monthly listener mark. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can expand on when you're, like a mid-level artist. But even more so when you really look at the broad spectrum of opportunities in the music business, there are a lot of ways for you to do what you love and make money, as long as you don't just stick to what's traditional. like these university events are big. I used to DJ for the university all the time. And I know Latasha Barnes is a professor and not a professor of dance at all. Like, I don't have a degree none of us have degrees in music or performance. And when we're doing this, you know what I mean? So keep your eyes and your minds open when you're exploring these routes for performance opportunities, for other opportunities. You can teach, you can consult, you can speak. There are all these things that you can do as long as you really perform in what your art form is at a high enough level and are able to talk about it and are able to go beyond simply just doing the bare minimum of getting behind turntables and DJing or grabbing a microphone and rapping or singing.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's a lot of opportunities you can create yourself. Obviously, we know LaRussell's doing shit in his backyard, but Anise, the cat that had his biggest song, The Sun and Moon.
He's dope. I love Anise.
Yeah, and he does shows. He recently did a show like at the Santa Monica, at the beach. I think it was near the Santa Monica Pier, where he just invites people out, no cost, and just invites people out to come vibe. And he does a set on the beach. And obviously he's not paying anything for that. You know, he's just telling people to pull up to the beach. The fans come out, enjoy some of the music, and have a great experience and go home. So there's a lot of different ways to be creative if you're trying to get on stage. And I would encourage you to get on a stage as much as possible so that your show becomes something that people actually want to see and come back to. It takes most people a while to get comfortable on stage and put on a great show. So if you can do that, at Venice Beach or, at your local fair or wherever, try to get as many reps as possible. But shout out to Anise, because he's been doing his thing. I mean, he crushes it. He's probably close to 2 million monthly listeners, and he's got a good fan base.
He is. He's at 1.8. I got a question though. So has he always been with Too Lost?
No. So Too Lost, it's via our relationship with Indy 5.
Okay. I guess my question is, so his biggest song is at 180 million streams, right? So he's at least, I would say, once audited, eligible for gold, if not platinum, for that song. Mm-hmm. But he's self-released,
completely independent.
Yeah. So how does that even work with the way his partnerships are set up with Too Lost? Has Too Lost ever paid to audit via the RIAA for gold and platinum certifications for their artists?
I think that still would be something they would initiate.
Okay.
I mean, I can't speak direct because I don't work on, my job here is brand. I'm responsible for the Too Lost brand. So I don't know who manages that relationship here at Too Lost and if we're monitoring that. But that would still be initiated by the artist team and their partners, I would believe. It's not something
I figured, because Anise is releasing under Anise LLC, so he's the label entity, so he would probably need to have the RIAA account. I just wonder, as we're moving forward in the music business, the trajectory seems to be this kind of relationship becoming a lot more common, where there's the artist, they're DIY, they set up an LLC, and then they work through a distributor, and it almost turns into them as a whole becoming a label, the artist with the distributor. So I just wonder if distributors are going to start taking on kind of more label roles in that regard and celebrating those wins.
I mean, so maybe it might be something that one of our product managers alerts that, like, hey, just in case the artist doesn't know, like, hey, but I don't think so. But for here as a distribution partner, the label services that we can provide for artists that have a little bit more traction is just managing that relationship with the DSPs and helping them tell their story before music comes out, to have better opportunities or to have better chance at landing on different playlists and editorial opportunities and things like that. But there's an artist named Jojo. I learned that it is the Jojo from when I was growing up. But Jojo and I are probably around the same age, I'm assuming, maybe, possibly. So Jojo is offering a $900 ticket. And for this ticket, it's not only a meet and greet, but you get the opportunity to help her crew set up for concerts. You know, I think at my first reaction to this was kind of like, why would you want to help her set up? But then I thought about it some more, Payne. I was like, that might be a cool experience for a fan that really loves JoJo. Definitely a memorable experience. What was your impression when you read the headline or read the article?
No, my first impression was, wait a minute, that's a liability. I know they got to be signing waivers. So that seems like you're creating a lot of trouble. You're inviting a lot of liability. Maybe it's super limited, the setup, you know, like set up these T-shirts, that type of thing. I think look, man, when you play a show and you have fans, even at, you know, the small level, there are going to be the people at the end that just love what you do so much that feel like they want to give back to you some way. And it's kind of a selfish thing, you know, like they want that story, they want that experience. So I think this is probably her best. She's come up with some pretty weird ideas lately, and this is probably the best idea that she's come up with. So good for her.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but what I'll say is, like, you know, you ultimately will know your fan base the best, and you'll know what kind of experiences and opportunities to provide. And they might seem weird to people outside of your community, outside of the world you're building, but that's okay. I always tell the story of, you know, Queen Herbie. When I had her on the Independent Living podcast, she was selling chewed gum for $100. Like, from the outside looking in, that's wild. You're like, who the hell would buy your chewed gum? Who the hell would even want your chewed gum for anything? You know, but she knows her audience the best. And oftentimes your audience will tell you exactly what they want, right? Like, so, you know, even with Big Jaw right now, we got people hitting us up and they want to pay to get in sketches. Like, we never would have like thought, and we still, that's not something that we're considering, but like, you know, if he was open to that, that wasn't something that he was thinking about already. Like, people are hitting us and like, hey, how much does it cost to get into a sketch? Or even with the music, like, how much does it cost to put our music in your sketches? You know, so sometimes your fans will tell you what they're willing to pay for, you know, and then you can decide if that fits into the overall branding or the story that you're trying to tell, or just kind of your strategy going forward. So $900 to help her set up her tour, I wouldn't do that. It sounds like I'm paying to work, and that sounds stupid to me. But that would be an experience for a fan that they'll never forget.
People do pay to work nowadays, so it's not that weird.
So yeah, anyway, I know we've stayed on the touring stuff for a minute, Payne. Let's jump into your stuff.
All right, so my win that I shared earlier was that on Saturday I sold 8 beats. 7 were releases, 1 was exclusive. And it got me thinking about...
There you go. I forgot my sound effects. I had to use it. So that's my celebration for selling beats.
It got me thinking about something Erinn said or alluded to last episode. And it was, you know, one of the worst things to happen to producers ever. And it happens to us regularly. I'd say it's the one thing that happened that we just kind of normalize. And it's terrible, which is that, and it has nothing to do with money. It's when you work with an artist on a song, you hear the song or you're hands-on with the song. It's worse, like for me, when I'm mixing and tracking and vocal producing and really invested in the song beyond just making the beat, but then the song never comes out. Because no matter how hard we work on the song, unfortunately, the ultimate decider is either the artist or their label or both. And so yes, it's a financial blow, because if the song doesn't come out, we usually don't get paid, but it's also a spiritual blow because we love making music. So at very least, the music that we put our energy into should come out just so we can enjoy.
Wait, Payne, you said unfortunately that decision rests with the artist or label. Are you suggesting that that the producer should have a say in whether it should come out?
No, I'm not. So what I'm leading into is that the producer, the more leverage they might have in that kind of scenario, like a Timbaland or a Dre or someone, but they often act as label entities themselves. You know, they all have their imprints on majors. So that's a little different. And I also feel like very few artists are going to look at a Dre and say, nah, I think I have a better idea of what's going to work than you do. You know what I mean? They're probably going to defer to him. But there is backlash for beat leasing. And I think this is a big reason why I love it and why so many producers do it. I feel like it's not a solution necessarily, but it's one way to kind of lessen that blow, because I think every producer has spoken on this, every big producer, where an artist will tell them, you know, hold this beat for me, or we got the song, it's going to come out, and it just never comes out. And they've held that beat. And like after 5 years, that beat's old, you know, no one else wants to use it. So it's an imbalance at very least. And I'm not going to sit here and whine about it being unfair that the artists and the labels have the final say, but don't whine about producers going to the internet and leasing a beat. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of this going on, and it's just the way it is, and every situation is different. So I think this is a great way to balance things out, because producers are branding themselves, they're beat leasing. But regardless, what I want to ask you about, and it's just something that I think we all struggle with, there's that old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And I think when it comes to what I do specifically as a producer, and certainly you can extend this to recording artists and songwriters too. When I'm selling beats and I'm negotiating with multiple people at the same time for different beats, to me, it's like one sale in the hand is worth five in the bush. That's why customer service is so important. I'm always trying to talk to people, build rapport with people, so there's never a situation where they don't feel comfortable spending money. Because that's the thing. Remember, Dame, when we were on our couple MEC tours, we would split the group in two, and there would be producers on one side, recording artists on the other. And we would ask each side what their biggest contention is with the other side. And what rappers consistently said was, producers don't get back to us. I want to ask them a question, they don't respond. I want to get the exclusive rights or update my license, they don't respond. So if you're not responding, you're destroying that trust. Why would a rapper want to spend their hard-earned money with you? So I'm always on it. But what ends up happening is, you know, 5 people will say, yes, I want to buy this beat exclusively, whatever. And ultimately only one comes through, or the other, maybe another one comes through, but it comes through a month later, but the communication breaks down. So it's just kind of tough. And so I want to ask you what your strategies are for how you would avoid these kinds of scenarios with customers who aren't necessarily telling the truth, or who don't want to close the sale, or who might just be wasting your time. Because they're, you know, like, you don't want to get emotional, but when it comes to running your business, that can cause some frustration. Yeah.
One, I forgot that we did that, and we should probably do that again, maybe even in a virtual format of just because I'm always trying to bring folks together, because it really comes down to just communication. I think as a producer, you know, you should just figure out how long you want to allow people to determine if they're going to purchase a beat or not. You know, maybe you say, hey, I give people a 3-month window, whatever time frame you decide, a month, a week, 2 months, whatever it is, you know, and just clearly articulate that in email or via text, some written form of communication. So you have it, be like, hey, you have this amount of time to make a move, or I have to go in a different direction. And to me, that's how I would set it up. And of course, you have, you know, people that you're tighter with, that you might be a little, you know, you might be a little looser with your, you know, with your timeline, but I would just set a time so people know when it comes to a DJ Pain One beat, look, you got a week to make a decision. You know, you don't make a decision, I got a business to run. You know, I understand how people can be mad at that, you know, once you just lay it out for them in a text. I know some people will, because people will get mad at anything. But, like, you know, after a week, if you haven't made a decision, to me, you're not serious anyway. Because if you really want something, you're on it. You're excited. You want to record to that beat ASAP. You want to get that music out ASAP. So that's how I would play it.
Well, I think too, I think you said something key. I think Erinn talked about this too. And then I think Brianna Marin talked about it too. When you're having that conversation internally where you're like, man, I'm so annoyed with this person. I'm pissed. I need to let them know there's this time window. I think that's kind of the wrong way of looking at it. But as a general rule, you got to figure anything you say in written form, and I love written form because it's clear. There's no ambiguity there, because people can say whatever. I've been in those situations. You get on the phone, you're like, yeah, unlimited rights for 50. Let's talk about the exclusive. Normally 500. I could drop it to 400. Next thing you know, they're like, I know you told me you would give me the exclusive for 50. I'm like, I didn't say that. Yeah, you did. So I like to just put everything, in writing. But everything you write is there. You know what I mean? They could screenshot it. So anything you type, the way you conduct yourself in these interactions, just assume you're going to get screenshotted. Is that the presentation of yourself that you want? Is that conversation leaking going to make you look like an asshole, or is it going to make, because if a rapper leaks my recent conversation is like, look at Payne being a jerk, and they show the screenshot and it's just me saying, hey, I'm just following up. I haven't heard from you in a week. By the end of the day, if I don't hear from you, I'll assume the deal is off. I don't feel bad that I'm being polite. I'm being respectful, but I'm also being clear. So my strategies would be, number one, assume nothing is solidified, no deal until money is in your hand, if it's a money situation. And for custom work, deposits. For shows, recording artists, deposits, agreements. Get stuff in writing, because a lot of people who are just wasting your time won't even take the time to execute an agreement. They're not going to sign it. They're not even going to read it because they know deep down inside they're bullshitting you. So get in the habit of conducting yourself as the type of business person that you want others to act as in your presence. Number two, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead. Go finish your list.
I was just going to say, number two, having multiple revenue streams that you realistically can maintain, not like disparate stuff that you don't like. That helps. I'm not saying like I make beats and I also paint exteriors, but I don't like painting exteriors. I'm like, no, I'm talking about you making beats and then you also teaching music production at a local community college or something that realistically feeds your spirit. So you're not taking away from what you love doing and the core of what you're trying to do for life just to make money on the side. I'd say following up and remaining professional. Like I said, even when you're cutting someone off, even when you're telling them, you know what, I'm frustrated, we're not doing this anymore, you can say it in a professional way. You don't have to say, all right, bye, bitch. Or, whatever. Like the way the screenshots that I post where people are talking to me like that, don't be like that. And then lastly, I would say do good business with good people. Always lead with that. Because if you do good business with enough people who do good business back, they're just going to keep referring you to more people. And then your network of potential customers and partners expands.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talk about that all the time. I recently had Dylan Reese on the Independent Living podcast. I have my go-tos for opportunities. Like typically, if I know somebody needs a beat, I hit up Payne. If it's a good, if I feel like it's a good fit. If I need music, I go to Dylan. I go to Bari. There's just core people I go to because I know that they're going to be, timely with their communication. They're going to turn around things quickly. And there's just not going to be any drama. So, I can't emphasize that enough. Just opportunities come to people that are easy to deal with. If you're a pain in the ass, I'm never, ever coming to you. I don't care how good you are, what it is. Like I just don't have time to deal with that shit.
Yeah, it's crazy how, and people call it gatekeeping. It's like people are gatekeeping their energy from toxic ass people. They don't get that. A lot of people just want to jump out off the porch and jump into the diva pool when it comes to this music business shit. And you will really turn people off. Yeah.
I mean, as you get older just in life, and in music, you just are more intentional about how you draw your boundaries, right? That's the reason why I don't manage music artists anymore. Like they're tough to deal with. And I don't have time to wait to eventually say, I told you so, right? Like if I'm going to work with somebody, hopefully they respect my experience. They expect, what I'm saying. They're not going against the grain. And I say, do something, they do something else. Now I have to wait and for that to fail. And then you come back and be like, oh, I see what you meant. It's like, bro, we just wasted fucking 6 months. I told you this 6 months ago. And I don't have that patience anymore. I don't have that time or patience, to let you make your own mistakes if you don't have to. So we're drawing we draw our boundaries as we go. We learn, and it's healthy. It's healthy for your own mental. It's healthy to save time, just protect your energy, and you learn what boundaries to draw as you have more experience in this.
So last topic, this will be quick. One rapper that I haven't worked with that I would like to work with. Can you guess who it is, Dame?
One rapper that you'd like to work with?
That I want to work with, but I haven't yet.
Well, I'm assuming it's a lot of them, but
no, this one is a special one. This is the top of the short list.
I don't know.
Plies. Now, Plies had
Plies is hilarious.
I love Plies, and I mean purely from a musical standpoint. When I heard what was the name of the song? Somebody Loves You. When I heard Somebody Loves You come out way back, and it was a slept on track, and he coupled it with some sort of advocacy effort to help the children of incarcerated parents. I was like, oh man, I've been misjudging Plies this whole time because I only heard a couple songs, and then I became a Plies fan. But anyway, Plies just dropped a lawsuit. Did you hear about this? Have you heard the first of all, Dame, have you heard the Megan Thee Stallion and Glorilla song called Wannabe?
Nah. I remember hearing that there was because I follow Plies, because Plies is hilarious. Yeah. I think he's a great balance of like intellect, ratchetness, he's kind of a medley. So
he was an early adopter of being a content creator as a recording artist too.
Yeah, Plies is hilarious.
So the song,
actually, this is random, but he recently he was somewhere and he was showing his receipt, and it said like one egg. He added an egg to his Caesar salad or something like that, and like the one egg was like $30. I don't know where he was to get a $30 egg, but just the way he presents content is hilarious, and it's hilarious obviously to a lot of people because his Instagram, has grown tremendously over the past few years. A lot of people have become a fan of Plies that they've never probably even heard his music. I can't tell you I'm sure I've heard some Plies music, but I can't name one song right now from Plies.
You haven't heard Shorty with T-Pain?
No, I'm sure I've heard it. Well, yeah. So now, but I like off top, if I was on a game show and they were like, name a Plies song, I would have been stuck. I'd have been kicked off.
No, that's a great song, but Plenty Money is probably because it's. Oh, wait a minute. His verse on Lose My Mind, on Jeezy Lose My Mind.
Yeah, I don't know. The Shorty one is even though I'm not your name,
so,
you my show. Yeah.
But T-Pain, that was his debut, like pop record, and everyone, it was honestly, that's one of T-Pain's best hooks, in my opinion. Drummer Boy produced it.
That song is a banger, but it's so good that I didn't even remember that's Plies on the song.
That's the problem. That's the problem with the T-Pain and Akon era, because they were killing the hook so hard that you forgot, like how many people remember Two Pistols, but they know the song that T-Pain was on. So it's that kind of thing. But listen to Somebody Loves You, listen to Plenty Money, re-listen to Lose My Mind, the Plies verse. I interviewed Fat Boy. He talked about how the Plies verse just completely changed the Gucci Mane record that he produced. Wasted. Plies was on Wasted. Plies was on a lot of these classics, and we don't even give him that credit. And he always has a standout verse.
And he was just on the Millennium Tour, I think. I think I saw some highlights of him on the, because he brought out Keith Sweat at and that clip went viral for some reason.
I didn't see that, but I know Plies and Kirk Franklin look crazy similar. Like I don't know if they've ever been in the same room at the same time. That being said, though, Plies, when I first heard the Wannabe record, I was like, oh, they sampled or replayed that Soulja Boy record, Pretty Boy Swag. And I knew the management of G5 Kid, who was the producer who produced Pretty Boy Swag, a huge hit. And I really thought that was a interpolation of that beat. And I guess it wasn't. And then Plies has a song to a similar sounding track. So he essentially tried to sue Megan Thee Stallion for interpolating the beat and not clearing the interpolation. Because even if you replay a beat and it's not a direct sample, you still have to clear it on the underlying composition side. Now, I found a bunch of interesting things about this. I think one thing that's interesting, legally speaking, is that if I make a beat for a major label rapper, right, and they turn it into a song, the rapper's label owns the mastering, the master recording copyright, the sound recording copyright. That's the trade-off. I still retain my percentage of the underlying composition copyright, but labels are in the business of owning and exploiting masters. Let's say someone wants to use just the beat or sample just the beat or replay and interpolate just the beat. They have to clear the whole song. They don't just clear the beat. So it's not just a matter of them talking to me. They have to talk to everybody involved in the song because that's the new work that they sampled. Like the beat doesn't exist anymore. It only exists in context of the overall song. And I think most people in the industry know this, but I think it's interesting still. It means that the rapper or the label could kill that whole deal, even if I want to make it happen. Like someone wants to sample, I don't know what, someone wants to make a new version of what's a beat that I made that didn't sample, like the Pooh Shiesty record. Someone wants to flip it and turn it to an R&B version, and they just want to take my melody. Well, they would have to go through the two co-producers, who I'm sure would say yes, but they would have to go through G Herbo, who was the feature, Pooh Shiesty, who's the primary artist, and the label, and everybody else involved. And if a single person said, no, we don't want that song sampled, then whatever clearance fee we're getting, all that goes out the window. Like that deal is dead. And that part kind of seems unfair, but again, I'm biased because I'm a producer and I would love to have that happen. And I'm sure I'd change my mind if, say, like one of these MAGA rappers wanted to sample and the label's like, yeah, we need to give it to the guy that says the N-word with the hard R in his songs. And I'm like, nah, I don't want it. I don't care how much money it is. No, kill that deal. So that would be me being a hypocrite. But I think it's just an interesting situation because I really, like, my ears got tricked. I went back to the Megan Thee Stallion track because I thought, okay, at very least, Soulja Boy's doing this social media thing with Plies where, you know how Soulja Boy is. He just crashes out on Twitter or whatever he uses. So he's crashing out, calling Plies every name in the book. Because he was mad because he was like, this has nothing to do with the Pretty Boy Swag song. And, Soulja Boy gets his money because I think didn't he go after Ariana Grande for that same song because she used his cadence? Yeah, look that up. Soulja Boy himself has been involved in similar lawsuits. But when I looked up the credits on Wannabe, I fully expected to see Joshua Murphy as a co-writer. Joshua Murphy is the legal name of G5 Kid, who's the producer of Pretty Boy Swag, but he wasn't there. So I guess there was no sample clearance whatsoever, no interpolation whatsoever involved in that track. So it's interesting how, we've covered a lot of lawsuits about similarities of interpolation, of inspiration, and sometimes these lawsuits don't go anywhere. But in conclusion, for this particular story, Plies dismissed the lawsuit without prejudice, which apparently means, correct me if I'm wrong, lawyers in the comments, which apparently means he can potentially, if he changes his mind, reopen the lawsuit. I think that's what that means.
He couldn't or can't? Are you
he
saying
can.
He
if he wants to, he can still open it up again.
Oh, I thought the opposite. So we do need a lawyer for that one.
Without prejudice.
Yeah,
This is what Vibe says. Legal documentation states that Plies dropped the case without prejudice, which signifies he could opt to refile his suit if he changes his mind. Plies originally sued the 4 artists in November 2024, claiming they all illegally used what the rapper described as the infrared countdown beat. Much like now, Soulja Boy was the only artist listed in the lawsuit that responded. Oh, so that's why Soulja Boy was pissed, because he also sued Soulja Boy. Oh, this is interesting. Pretty Boy Swag is not your beat, Soulja Boy asserted in a video in November 2024. So you want to wait 10 years to try to... Okay, now he's just cussing. Never mind. I'm not going to read that. The beat is all original music. You can only sue somebody if they sample your song and don't get it cleared. This is not a sample, bro. The songs don't sound nothing alike. I think they sound something alike. I thought you was gangster. I thought you was... You're going to go snitch to the white man?
What?
I'm just reading Soulja Boy's... the transcript of what Soulja Boy was saying to Plies. So, yeah, he always takes things too far.
Yeah, Soulja doesn't always have it together. No.
But anyway, if Plies is watching this, send me a DM so we can make this collab happen. And if you are interested in making collabs happen and getting your music on all the right platforms, then we have a deal for you. Free for 3 months. Premium music distribution. Get your music on all the platforms. Go to tolost.com and use the code MEC for 3 free months. You can get a lot of music up in that time period. Anything I missed, Dame?
No, just more sound effects because I didn't use Boom. I'm going to get smarter and better with the sound effects going forward. I got the applause too for you, I got the applause waiting for your jokes. I got the censorship waiting for your B words.
Oh, so I could read the Soulja Boy transcript then. Just keep hitting that button.
Yep. All right. Well, hopefully Erinn will be back next week. And we're out of here. See y'all next Monday. Peace.